am I talking about is thank you. I'm not home. Where in the world is books? Yada yada. Thank you so much for watching my channel. I do like this chair though. Yes. Dizzy. I need to have one of these chairs in my life. I'm surprised I don't. Ooh, got a touch of the dizzies. Hey guys, welcome back to Books Yada Yada. I'm Dina, and thank you so much for watching my channel. So as you can see, you guys, today I'm not home. Yes, I'm in a hotel. We are in the city right now. I decided to accompany my husband for a business trip, which I normally never do because I kind of am a homebody. But we're in the city, so I figured why not? It's kind of crappy outside today. So I've gone to all the places I've wanted to go, and there's not a ton of places where you can really hang out for too long with a mask on anyway. You know what I mean? So I just gone to my usual haunts and visited some of my family here in the city, and that's about it. So I figured I'd make a video. Now, I have got some really exciting news that I wanted to talk about first. I am going to be interviewing Libby Klein, who is the author of the Poppy McAllister mystery series that I discussed in my last video. After I did that video, I reached out to her because I really need to talk to this woman. I mean, she is just so funny. Her books are just cracking me up. Having an absolute thrill ride reading these books, and I wanted to ask her a ton of questions, and I'm going to be doing that sometime next month. And we've exchanged a few emails, and she's going to get back to me on what is the best time for her. She's excited to do it. I'm excited to do it. This is going to be my first interview on my channel, so stay tuned for that. I will be letting you guys know for sure when that will be airing. Hopefully we'll be doing a live stream so that if any of you who read her books or just read cozy mysteries, then you can go ahead and ask questions. I really want to do it that way. So that will be forthcoming, and stay tuned for that. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is the most read authors tag. Now, this was an original tag done by one of my booktube buddies, Jeremy Fee. We all love Jeremy, right? I was tagged in this. PG, I ain't finna read that. So thank you, PG, for tagging me in this. So let's get started. So basically, there aren't any questions to this tag, which I thought was kind of interesting. Jeremy said on his channel that the idea, I'm just going to quote what he said. He made an update saying the idea topic has become accidentally a tag, and that's awesome. Do the tag, spread the word. You just talk about the authors you've read the most books by. A top 10 list works, but do it however you want. So the way I decided to do mine was basically you know, I was thinking, oh my God, maybe I should do a part 1, part 2 for this, but I don't know if that's going to actually happen. What I decided to do was break it down by my favorite genres, and those are usually the books that I've read the most, the authors that I've read the most books by. So I've got it broken down into psychological thrillers, contemporary fiction, fantasy, memoir, cozies, of course, and paranormal and horror. So yeah, so I'm going to start with psychological thrillers. That is my favorite genre. So the first author I'm going to talk about is a writer named Chevy Stevens. Chevy Stevens is a Canadian author. She has written, I believe, I want to say 6 books. She has one coming out at the end of August. She hasn't written a book in a while. I've read all of her books. She is a great writer. I'd say that she is definitely up there in female thriller authors, and Chevy Stevens is, to me, right on par with Gillian Flynn, but you just don't hear a lot about her. I'm not sure exactly why. I've never seen anybody on BookTube. You know, I haven't really searched it, but I haven't seen a lot of people talk about her books, but they are fantastic. If you want a real thrill ride with a deeper emotional component, so she kind of crosses that bridge between psychological thriller with suspense and mystery, but also with a little bit of contemporary fiction mixed in there, right? With sort of a lot of her books have to do with people that come from rough rough background, and I really, really enjoy that. So they're unique, they're different. Each one is very different from the next, and I've given all of her books at least 4 to 5 stars. If you like psychological thrillers that cross that bridge between not women's fiction or chick lit like Grady Hendrix and Sarah Pekkanen, these are a little on the gritty side and usually deal with a very heavy subject matter. So if you like those types of books, I would definitely check out Chevy Stevens. The next author on my list was Peter Swanson, or is Peter Swanson. I actually started reading him last year, and it's funny because, I do this with authors. Once I read one of their books and I love them, I will just gobble up the rest of them. And that's what happened last year, right around this time of year. I started reading Peter Swanson. The Kind Worth Killing, I believe, was the first book I read by him. I have not read his books in chronological order, but that was the first book, and it hooked me right away. I started to completely go down the Peter Swanson rabbit hole and read all of his books. So there is a new book that came out, I believe, in March called Every Value Break. It is not getting good reviews. So I don't know if I'm going to read it, even though I am a fan. I really want to say that I don't want to read it just because I don't want my Peter Swanson bubble to burst. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be disappointed in him. So I don't know if I'll read that one, but definitely Peter Swanson. He just has this really cool, I want to say it's kind of like a noir style. He's like a throwback to that Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler feel. They take place in the present, but I always feel like Robert Mitchum might pop into a scene. They just have this very moody, atmospheric, hypnotic feel to the book. So if you enjoy that type of writing, check out Peter Swanson. Next up, Thomas Harris, of course. I had to put Thomas Harris on my list because I have read every single book in the Hannibal Lecter series, and there's only 4: Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, and Hannibal Rising. He has written only 2 other books in his career. He wrote a book called Black Sunday back in, I want to say, the 70s, and then he just came out with a new book last year, I believe. They are totally different than the Hannibal Lecter series. Those characters from those books will forever hold a special place in my heart. Another one, of course, is Gillian Flynn. I already talked about her, read all of her books. She's taken a huge hiatus. I think she's doing some sort of adaptation on Macbeth, so that should be very interesting. And I do know that she's worked on a TV series on Amazon called Utopia, which starred John Cusack and a whole bunch of other people. And that was awesome, you guys. If you haven't checked out Utopia on Amazon, Gillian Flynn is behind that. Whew, this is going on too long. That was just psychological thrillers, you guys. So I'm going to really quick, contemporary fiction, Alice Hoffman. I have read most all of Alice Hoffman's books, and there are a lot of them. I am not home, so I can't show you my Alice Hoffman shelf again, but I have a whole shelf of just Alice Hoffman books. My 2 favorite books by her: one, The Dove Keepers, which is about the Roman siege on Masada, which was something that I learned about as a kid, was always very interested in, and it was just a beautiful book and told the fictional story of these characters. What if, these characters who might have existed in Masada, what they were going through before the destruction of Masada. If you're interested in Alice Hoffman, she writes a lot of magical realism. So this was sort of a departure, but not really. There was still a lot of magical realism infused into The Dove Keepers, even though it is a book loosely based on an actual historical account. Dove Keepers definitely check out, but if you want to check out this is my second favorite book by her. Most people know Alice Hoffman from writing Practical Magic, which is a great book, but it's actually not one of my favorite books by her. My second favorite is called White Horses, and she wrote this back in the early 80s. And this book, you guys, was just one of those books that threw you for a loop. It is very controversial. It has some extremely disturbing themes going on, but her writing is just amazing, and I can't gush enough over Alice Hoffman. I'm just going to do another one really quick in contemporary fiction, and that's Anita Shreve. She unfortunately passed away, I want to say a few years ago, which is really sad because she had an amazing voice. There was no other writer quite like her. I read all of her books. She wrote The Pilot's Wife, probably what she's the most famous for. My favorite book by her, though, was a book called Sea Glass. She wrote a lot of books that were set in New Hampshire, New England, and Portsmouth, New Hampshire, that area. So, of course, you guys know I love to read about New England, and that was always something that I loved about her books. But she's just was a beautiful, beautiful writer. So if you've never checked Anita Shreve out, check her out. In the fantasy category, Neil Gaiman. He's the only fantasy writer that I ever really heavily got into. I read all of his books, including the Sandman graphic novels. I love Neil Gaiman. I love anything he's involved with. I loved his work with Terry Pratchett. I mean, he's just amazing. He's an amazing human being, just a phenomenal writer and a world builder. I don't know how he does it. If you don't know Neil Gaiman, check him out. American Gods and Neverwhere are my favorite books by him. In the memoir category, I do read memoirs from time to time, and my favorite memoirist is Augusten Burroughs. He wrote his probably most famous for a book called Running with Scissors, which was adapted into a film, a long time ago. He's just a memoirist who talks about things that, in his life that happened, the way he grew up. It will blow your mind. I thought I had a kooky upbringing by being raised in a religious cult. Once you read Augusten Burroughs, you're like, ooh, my life was not that bad. So this is a man who's struggled with drug and alcohol addiction. He is a gay man. He's struggled with bipolar, especially. I think that's why I've always been fascinated with his writing, because of my work in the mental health profession. And let's see. So I'm jumping up to cozies here, you guys. Really quick, Lorna Barrett, who writes the Booktown Mysteries. Since I'm knee deep in my cozies right now, I'm only going to mention a couple because I am flying through those cozies. Lynn Cahoon writes the Tourist Trap mystery series. I'm like on book 5 or 6. There's like a ton of them, so I'm going to be reading all those for sure. And Libby Klein, of course. How could I not mention her, because I'm flying through her books. And last but not least, paranormal and horror. I don't read a ton. I realized as I was going through my Goodreads and trying to like accumulate my most read authors, I don't read a ton of horror. My horror is more, it's not your Stephen King horror. I've read plenty of Stephen King, but it's more Joyce Carol Oates horror. Like it's extremely disturbing, and it's not slasher type books, but they're more, and they're not psychological thrillers either. They get gory, but in a very, very different way. Sort of like Thomas Harris does in the Hannibal Lecter series. She writes in a way that things will just really disturb you, and you will be thinking about later, and you'll be going, oh God, I can't unread that. You know what I mean? Another is in more paranormal. I wouldn't call Grady Hendrix horror so much, because he doesn't like scare the bejesus out of me, but he's more funny, and there's so much more humor and levity in his books that I appreciate so much. And I just love Grady Hendrix, and I've read all of his books so far, except the latest one, which I will be reading soon. Another one in paranormal series is Charlaine Harris, the Sookie Stackhouse series. I absolutely adore that series, you guys. There's 13 books in the whole series, and I'm right now, I think I'm on book 4 or 5. That is one of my favorites for sure. So I will be reading more of those. And another, last but not least here, J.R. Rain writes the Samantha Moon Vampire for Hire series. It is a paranormal series about a vampire. She's basically a soccer mom who is a vampire and is a private investigator, and she has all of these, crazy things happening. And the way the books are written, they're all on Kindle Unlimited, you guys, if you ever want to check it out. And they're very short, which I love. They're all like maybe around 200 pages long. The narrator is fantastic. Her name is Dina Perlman, and she is amazing. So these are the kind of books that I just fly through, because each story in the Vampire for Hire series is just so engaging and well written. J.R. Rain is a really great writer. They're not fluff at all. They are really, really good. And they're a little dirty. They're a little gritty. They're a little noir for sure. Again, like, where's Robert Mitchum? Up, looking over my shoulder, right? Those of you who know noir and might know who Robert Mitchum. If you don't know who Robert Mitchum is, watch TCM. watch Turner Classic Movies every once in a while, and sometimes they do a whole noir thing, and yeah, you'll know who he is. If you have ever seen Cape Fear, he was the original Cape Fear, which was really freaky. I mean, super freaky. All right, so that's the end of the tag, you guys. Man, whew, that went on forever. I'm going to have to cut a lot of this out. Thank you so much, PG. I ain't finna read that for tagging me in this. This was a lot of fun. I'm going to try really hard, if I remember to put these authors' websites and whatnot into the description box. I'm having a very difficult time talking today. Feeling a little sleepy. I think it's time for some coffee. And Jeremy Fee, thanks for creating this tag. This was fun. So you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you the next time. And please stay tuned for that news that I will be definitely giving out about the Libby Klein interview. Really excited about that. All right, you guys, have a great day. Take care. See you the next time.